Earth was officially classified as a nursery world, until we discovered 8 billion humans casually surviving on a planet that should have killed them before they invented fire. My name is Kelvor. I am a senior documentation specialist for the GPC, which is a fancy way of saying I push files around and make sure nobody colonizes planets they are not supposed to colonize. Exciting stuff. Really, my species, the Thalaxians, we are known for 3 things: our exceptional record-keeping, our 12-fingered hands that make typing incredibly efficient, and our complete and utter inability to handle surprise. So you can probably guess how well I took the news about Earth. The nursery world system, for those of you who do not spend your days drowning in bureaucratic protocol, is pretty straightforward. Category 1 worlds are paradise planets, basically giant gardens where the most dangerous thing you will encounter is a flower that smells too sweet. Category 2 worlds have some challenges, maybe a predator or two, but nothing a species could not handle while still developing basic tools. It is like training wheels for sentient life. We catalog them, we protect them, we check in every few thousand cycles to see how the local species are doing. Earth was a Category 2. Lovely little planet, decent atmosphere, water, all the basics. Perfect spot for a developing species to figure out fire and language and whether or not they want to invent the wheel. The survey team classified it ages ago. Some bipedal primates running around, doing primate things. Everything normal and boring and exactly what you would expect. Then the update came through. Class 12 Death World Extreme. Recommendation: immediate quarantine. Sentient species survival status: inexplicable. Additional notes: please send help and possibly a therapist. I thought it was a joke. I really did. It was not a joke. The survey team that went to check on Earth was led by a Kiksari named Theln, and Theln was about as by the book as they come. Routine planetary assessment, standard protocol, in and out in 3 solar days. He had done this 1,000 times before. You scan the planet, you count the population, you check their development level, you update the files, you go home. Simple. Theln's first message back to headquarters was, quote, "Something has gone catastrophically wrong with our historical data," end quote. His second message was mostly screaming. According to our records, Earth should have had maybe a few 100,000 of these primates scattered around, living in caves, hitting things with rocks. That whole early development phase, they were supposed to be discovering agriculture any millennium now. Very standard stuff. But when Theln's team did their scan, they found 8 billion of them. 8 billion. Wearing clothes, building structures that scraped the sky, flying in metal contraptions, broadcasting electromagnetic signals into space like they were trying to wake up every predator species in the galaxy. And here is the thing that made absolutely no sense. They were thriving, not surviving, not clinging to existence by their fingernails. Thriving. They had covered their entire planet in cities and farms and roads. They had sent machines to other planets in their system. They were splitting atoms and manipulating genetics and doing calculus, for crying out loud, on a planet that should have killed them before they figured out how to make a sharp stick. Theln did what any reasonable survey leader would do. He ran a full environmental analysis, assuming our historical classification was correct, and something must have changed with the planet itself. Maybe the atmosphere had shifted. Maybe some catastrophic event had made the world safer. Maybe a benevolent elder species had terraformed it without filing the proper paperwork, which hams more often than you would think. The analysis came back and Theln sent his third message: the planet is worse than we thought. Worse. Not better. Worse. Earth was not a Category 2 nursery world. It had never been a Category 2 nursery world. Whoever did the original survey had either been incompetent, drunk, or actively trying to get sentient species killed. The environmental readings were nightmare fuel. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was corrosive. The weather patterns were violent and unpredictable. The native wildlife included apex predators that could run faster than our military vehicles. The microbial life alone should have dissolved any developing species before they invented language. It was a Class 12 Death World Extreme. The kind of planet we told developing species scary stories about. The kind of place where colonization teams went in with full military support and half of them still did not come back. The kind of world that made hardened soldiers reconsider their career choices. And these humans, these soft-looking bipedal primates, had not just survived on it, they had dominated it. They were the apex species. They had bent this nightmare planet to their will and made it their home. When Theln's full report landed on my desk, I read it 3 times. Then I checked the planetary coordinates to make sure he had not accidentally surveyed the wrong rock. Then I ran a full diagnostic on our database to see if we had been hacked. Then I filed a request for emergency psychiatric evaluation because clearly I was having some kind of mental breakdown. But the report was accurate. The coordinates were correct. The database was fine and I was unfortunately completely sane. Earth was a death world, and the humans had no idea. Let me paint you a picture of what a proper nursery world looks like, just so we are all on the same page here. Take Pavonis 3 for example. Beautiful planet. Gravity at 0.7 standard, so you can practically float around. Atmosphere is a nice mix of nitrogen and just enough oxygen to keep things interesting without, setting everything on fire. Temperature variations of maybe 5 degrees across the entire year. Predator. Sure, there is a bird-like creature that might peck you if you bother its nest. Absolutely terrifying. The Pavonians developed there over 4 million cycles and never once faced an intestine-level event. That is a nursery world. Now let me tell you about Earth. First, the oxygen. 21% oxygen in the atmosphere. 21%. Do you know what oxygen is? It is rocket fuel. It is what we use to make things explode in controlled environments while wearing protective gear. These humans are breathing it constantly with every breath, like it is nothing. Their entire planet is one spark away from turning into a fireball, and they evolved to require this toxic, corrosive, highly reactive gas to survive. They literally cannot live without the substance that would kill most species in the galaxy. But wait, it gets better. The gravity on Earth is 0.98 standard. That does not sound too bad until you realize that most species in the galaxy evolved on worlds between 0.5 and 0.7. Humans are living under nearly double the gravitational force of a normal nursery world. Every single day, their bones are dense enough to support this crushing weight. Their muscles are strong enough to move under this pressure. They carry this burden every moment of their existence and they think it is normal. We had one intern try to calculate how much energy humans expend just standing upright and he had to go lie down for a while. Then there is the weather. Oh, the weather. Earth has these things called hurricanes, and tornadoes, and blizzards, and droughts, and floods. Temperature swings of 40-50 degrees between seasons in some regions. Water that falls from the sky and sometimes freezes into chunks of ice that can crush vehicles. Wind speeds that can tear buildings apart. Electrical storms that strike the ground with enough power to vaporize organic matter. This happens regularly. The humans have a whole category of small talk dedicated to discussing how their planet is trying to kill them on any given day. The native wildlife is somehow even worse. There are land predators that can bite through steel. Ocean predators the size of our cargo ships. Insects that inject paralyzing venom. Reptiles that can swallow prey whole. Microscopic parasites that eat you from the inside out. Plants that cause chemical burns if you touch them. And the humans. These wonderful, insane humans, they looked at all of this and decided some of these creatures would make excellent pets and others would make excellent dinner. I compared Earth to the 17 known nursery worlds in our database. The average nursery world has maybe 3 or 4 species that could theoretically harm a sentient being if that being really tried to get themselves hurt. Earth has thousands of species that can kill you, and that is just the ones we cataloged before we gave up counting. But here is what really kept me up at night, and I do not sleep much to begin with. This was not some engineered death world. Nobody had dropped these humans here as some kind of sick experiment. The genetic analysis was clear. They evolved there. Naturally, over millions of cycles they adapted to every single nightmare their planet threw at them, and they did not just adapt, they thrived. Their immune systems fight off diseases that would devastate our populations. Their healing factor lets them recover from injuries that would be fatal to most species. Their endurance is off the charts. They can run for hours, swim for miles, and their persistence hunting strategy basically involves chasing prey until it dies of exhaustion. Something had gone very wrong with human evolution. Or very right depending on how you looked at it, and we were about to make contact with them. This was going to be a disaster. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was, without exaggeration, the most chaotic meeting I have ever attended, and I once sat through a 16-hour debate about proper comma usage in diplomatic treaties. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone was talking over everyone else. The Zorathian delegate kept insisting we should just quarantine the entire system and pretend we never found it. The Pelkari representative wanted to send in a rescue fleet immediately. It was a mess. Finally, Council Director Mava called for order, which took another 40 minutes, and we started addressing the actual problem. What do you do when you find a sentient species that has somehow survived on a planet that should have killed them before they invented the wheel? The consensus, and I use that term loosely, was that these humans must be the most traumatized species in galactic history. Think about it from their perspective, right? They spent their entire evolutionary history fighting for survival against impossible odds. They probably had no concept of safety or comfort. They were likely aggressive, paranoid, possibly suffering from species-wide psychological damage. We needed to approach this with extreme sensitivity and care. Commander Voss, our military liaison, stood up and delivered a presentation that I can only describe as aggressively cautious. He proposed we make contact in a neutral space station not on Earth itself, because exposing our diplomats to a Class 12 death world was, quote, a spectacular way to lose diplomats, end quote. We would need full environmental suits, medical teams on standby, and a military escort in case the humans proved hostile. We would bring offerings of food from actual nursery worlds to show them what a safe planet looked like. We would speak slowly and clearly, avoid sudden movements, and generally treat them like rescue victims because that is essentially what they were. The proposal passed unanimously. 17 species, all in agreement, which should have been our first warning sign that we had absolutely no idea what we were doing. Then came the personnel assignments. And this is where my wonderful peaceful career took a turn into the absurd. Director Mava looked directly at me and said, "Kelvor, you filed the initial report. You understand the situation better than anyone. You are going to lead the diplomatic documentation team." I tried to explain that I was a file clerk, not a first contact specialist. I pushed papers. I organized data. I had never even been off station during a contact event. Director Mava told me, very kindly, that my attention to detail and careful nature made me perfect for such a delicate situation. What she meant was that nobody else wanted the job, and I was too far down the hierarchy to say no effectively. So there I was, 3 days later, standing in the docking bay of Neutral Station 7, wearing an environmental suit that made me look like a walking bubble, surrounded by medical personnel, military escorts, and enough safety equipment to handle a radiation leak. We had prepared a whole speech about welcoming them to the galactic community. We had gifts, we had translators, we had 17 different backup plans in case things went wrong. We sent the invitation to Earth. We expected fear, maybe confusion, perhaps aggression. The humans sent back a message that said, "Sounds great, be there Tuesday. Do you guys like coffee?" We had no idea what coffee was. We should have been more concerned about that. The human shuttle docked with our station at exactly the agreed upon time, which was our first surprise. Punctuality is not typically a trait associated with species that spend all their energy just trying not to die. The airlock cycled. Our medical team stood ready. Our military escort had their hands on their weapons, but in a non-threatening way, which is harder than it sounds. And I was sweating inside my environmental suit even though the temperature regulation was working perfectly fine. The airlock opened, and out stepped Jack Brennan. He was not wearing an environmental suit. He was wearing what we later learned was called a business suit, which provides exactly zero protection from anything except maybe social embarrassment. He was carrying a briefcase in one hand and holding a disposable cup of some steaming liquid in the other. He took one look at our entire security apparatus, our medical teams, our hazard containment setup, and he smiled. "Wow," he said, "you guys really rolled out the red carpet. I appreciate it, but this seems like a lot for a Tuesday morning meeting." Commander Voss stepped forward, moving slowly like he was approaching a dangerous animal. "Ambassador Brennan, welcome. We have prepared comprehensive safety protocols for this meeting. If you would please proceed to the medical scanning station, we need to ensure you have not been exposed to any harmful pathogens during your journey." Jack looked confused. "Harmful pathogens? I mean, I washed my hands. We did sanitize the shuttle if that is what you are worried about. Are you folks immunocompromised or something? Should I have worn a mask?" "We are concerned about your health," Ambassador Voss said carefully. "Coming from a planet with such extreme environmental conditions, we want to make sure you are medically stable." Jack laughed. Actually laughed. "Earth? Extreme? I mean, sure, Cleveland gets a little rough in January, but I would not call it extreme." He took a sip from his cup. "You guys want some coffee? I brought extra." This was where researcher Pilth, our xenobiologist, made her first mistake. "What is coffee?" she asked. "Oh man, you have never had coffee?" Jack's face lit up like we had just told him we had never experienced joy. "Okay, so coffee is this drink we make from roasted beans. Gives you energy, tastes amazing, absolutely essential for getting through mornings. Here, try some." He held out his cup toward Pilth. She scanned it with her handheld analyzer, and I watched her face go through several colors that I did not know Kiksari faces could turn. "Ambassador," she said slowly, This liquid is hot enough to cause severe burns. It contains a stimulant compound that would be classified as a controlled substance in 14 different galactic territories. The acidity level would strip the lining of most species' digestive tracts. And you drink this, voluntarily? For enjoyment? Jack looked at his coffee, then back at Pilth. I mean, yeah? It is just coffee. Do you guys not have stimulants? We have stimulants, Voss said. We administer them in carefully controlled medical environments under professional supervision. Huh, Jack said, and took another sip. That sounds complicated. I decided to move things along before Pilth had a breakdown. Ambassador Brennan, perhaps we could begin the formal meeting. We have prepared a comfortable environment for you with gravity reduced to 0.6 standard, temperature controlled to a pleasant 20 degrees, and atmosphere filtered to reduce oxygen content to safer levels. Jack's smile faded a bit. Safer levels? What is the oxygen content going to be? 12%, I said. We know Earth's atmosphere is dangerously high in oxygen, so we have adjusted for your safety. 12%, Jack repeated. Kelvor, was it? Kelvor. At 12% oxygen I would pass out in about 3 minutes and be dead in 10. Humans need at least 19% to function. Our atmosphere is not dangerously high in oxygen. It is exactly the right amount of oxygen for us. The entire diplomatic team went silent. Commander Voss checked his datapad 3 times. Pilth made a small noise that might have been a whimper. You evolved to breathe that concentration of oxygen? Pilth asked. On purpose? I mean, evolution does not really do things on purpose, Jack said. But yeah, that is what we breathe. Is that weird? Yes, I thought. Yes, that is incredibly weird. That is the weirdest thing I have heard all cycle, and I once had to document a species that communicated through interpretive dance, but what I said was, perhaps we should recalibrate our environmental settings. Jack grinned. That would be great. Also, do you guys have a bathroom? That coffee is going right through me. We did not even know what a bathroom was. This was going to be a very long day. After we recalibrated the environmental settings, which took an hour and several near panic attacks from our engineering staff, Jack suggested we take a tour of the human section of the station. They had apparently set up a small habitat module to make themselves comfortable during the negotiation. He said it would help us understand human culture better. He said it would be educational. He did not say it would require therapy afterward. But here we are. The first thing that hit us when we entered the human habitat was the smell. They were cooking food. On purpose. With fire. Inside a space station. Commander Voss nearly activated the emergency protocols before Jack explained that controlled fire for food preparation was completely normal and safe. Safe. He used that word. There were open flames inside an oxygen-rich environment and he called it safe. This is Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, Jack said, gesturing to another human who was standing in front of what they called a stove. She is making lunch. Amy, what are we having? Chili, Amy said cheerfully. Extra spicy. Hope you guys are hungry. Pilth scanned the pot of bubbling red substance that Amy was stirring. Her scanner started beeping alarmingly. Ambassador, this food contains capsaicin levels that would qualify as a chemical weapon in most civilized systems. There are at least 4 compounds in here that cause cellular damage. The temperature alone would cause 3rd-degree burns to oral tissue. Why are you weaponizing your food? Amy laughed. Actually laughed. Like Pilth had told a hilarious joke. It is not weaponized, it is seasoned. Humans like spicy food. It is fun. Fun. Pilth repeated weakly. You damage your own cells for fun. I mean, when you put it that way it sounds bad, Amy said. But yeah, pretty much. You want some? We declined. Firmly. Repeatedly. Jack led us further into the habitat, pointing out various features like a proud homeowner. There was a room he called a gym, which appeared to be a torture chamber filled with metal weights and machines designed to stress the body in increasingly horrible ways. A human named Derek was in there, lifting a metal bar with enough weight attached to it that it should have crushed his spine. This is how we stay healthy, Jack explained. Regular exercise. Derek there is doing deadlifts. Great for the back and legs. He is deliberately damaging his muscle tissue. I said, because I had read the medical files. I knew what exercise did. You are aware that you are tearing your own muscles, correct? Yeah, Derek said, not even breathing hard despite holding enough weight to flatten me into a pancake. That is how they get stronger. You tear them, they heal back tougher. Basic biology. Basic biology. He called intentional self-harm basic biology. I was beginning to understand why Earth was classified as a death world. The planet did not have to kill them. They did it to themselves for recreation. Then we heard barking. Commander Voss went for his weapon. I backed up so fast I hit a wall. Pilth made that whimpering noise again. The sound was coming from another room. Something between a roar and a warning call. And it was getting closer. Jack's face lit up. Oh good. Someone let Bailey out. A creature bounded around the corner. It was covered in fur, had teeth that were clearly designed for tearing flesh, and was roughly the size of a small cargo container. It was moving at speed directly toward us. This was it. This was how I died, killed by Earth wildlife in a space station because humans had brought an apex predator with them as a companion. The creature reached Jack and started licking his face. This is Bailey, Jack said, scratching the creature behind its ears while it made happy noises and wagged its entire rear half. She is a golden retriever. Best dog in the universe. Yes you are. Yes you are. That is a predator, Voss said, his hand still on his weapon. What? No. Well, technically yes, but she is a pet. Humans domesticated dogs thousands of years ago. They are our friends. Bailey would not hurt anyone. She is a sweetheart. The sweetheart had teeth the size of my fingers and a jaw that could clearly crush bone. She was looking at me with what Jack claimed was friendly interest but looked a lot like she was deciding which part of me to eat first. Go ahead, Jack said. Pet her. She loves meeting new people. I would rather have jumped out of an airlock, but diplomatic protocol is diplomatic protocol. I reached out very slowly and touched the creature's head. It was soft. The creature Bailey leaned into my hand and made a happy noise. Her tail wagged harder. See, Jack said. Totally harmless. Totally harmless. The creature probably weighed 40 kilograms of pure muscle and had descended from wolves, which we had now learned were even larger predators that humans had somehow convinced to live with them. Humans had looked at a pack-hunting apex predator and thought, you know what, let us make friends with that, and it had worked. So, Jack said, want to see the recreation room? We have got a basketball court set up. Great game. Very fun. I did not want to know what basketball was, I really truly did not. But I was the lead diplomat, and we had a mission to complete. Sure, I said, lying through my teeth. That sounds wonderful. It was not wonderful. Basketball involved humans throwing themselves at each other at high speeds while trying to get a ball through a hoop. They called it a non-contact sport. There was constant contact. I had to sit down 3 times. The breaking point came during dinner. We were back in the diplomatic meeting room, and Jack had ordered what he called pizza, which was apparently bread covered in sauce and melted cheese and various other toppings, all cooked at temperatures that should have sterilized it into inedibility. He was eating it with his hands, just picking it up and biting it. No utensils, no protective equipment, nothing. I had been taking notes this entire time, documenting everything, trying to maintain some semblance of professional composure, but I had reached my limit. I set down my datapad and asked the question that had been eating at me since we arrived. Jack, I need to know something and I need you to be completely honest with me. Were humans genetically engineered? He stopped mid-bite. What? Your species? Was there some ancient precursor race that modified your genetics? Did someone build you in a laboratory? Did an elder civilization uplift you and enhance your capabilities? There has to be an explanation for how you can survive on Earth. Jack put down his pizza. He looked genuinely confused. Kelvor, no, we evolved naturally. Just regular evolution, random mutations, natural selection, survival of the fittest, all that stuff. Why would you think we were engineered? Because natural evolution does not produce species like you, I said, and I could hear my voice getting higher. It does not work that way. You do not just randomly develop the ability to breathe corrosive gas and survive crushing gravity and heal from catastrophic injuries and chase down prey for days at a time. That is not how evolution works on nursery worlds. Well sure, Jack said, but Earth is not a nursery world. It is just Earth. It is a planet. Kind of a rough one in some places I guess, but it is home. It is a Class 12 death world extreme, Pilt said quietly. It is the kind of planet where we send military expeditions with full support and expect casualties. It is the kind of planet that kills experienced explorers. And you evolved there naturally. You and your entire species. Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he said, is that why you have all been acting so weird? The environmental suits when we first met. The medical teams. The safety protocols. You think Earth is dangerous? Earth is objectively dangerous, Commander Voss said. By every metric we have, it is one of the most hostile environments for sentient life in the known galaxy. Huh, Jack said. He picked up his pizza again. I mean, I guess it can be rough sometimes, but you adapt, you know. Humans are pretty adaptable. Pretty adaptable. He called surviving on a death world being pretty adaptable, and then it hit me. the real horror of the situation. It was not just that humans had evolved on Earth. It was that they had no frame of reference for anything else. They thought their planet was normal. They thought they were normal, which meant that compared to their normal, the rest of the galaxy must seem— Jack, I said slowly, what do you think of our species? The Thalaxians, the Kixari, the Zorathians, all of us. What is your impression? Jack looked uncomfortable. I mean, you seem nice, very polite, good people, but— he hesitated. It is just, you all seem kind of— I do not know how to say this without being rude, but you seem kind of delicate, like the environmental suits for a normal station atmosphere, the concern about coffee, not being able to handle a friendly dog. I was worried we might accidentally hurt someone just by existing near them. We have been trying to be really careful. They were being careful. This whole time they thought we were the fragile ones. They thought they needed to protect us. Oh no. Oh no no no. How many humans are there? I asked, already knowing I was not going to like the answer. About 8 billion on Earth, Jack said. Another few million in the colonies on Mars and the Moon. We are looking at expansion though. Lots of planets in the galaxy. We are very excited to meet the neighbors. 8 billion. 8 billion Death World apex predators who thought they were normal and everyone else was delicate. 8 billion humans who were about to spread out into a galaxy that was completely unprepared for them. I needed a drink. A strong one. Possibly several. The emergency council session was called 48 hours after our initial contact with the humans. Every representative was present, even the Pelkari, who usually sent a proxy because they found group gatherings stressful, showed up in person. The chamber was packed. Word had spread about Earth, about the humans, about what we had found. Director Mava opened the session with a statement that I will remember for the rest of my very long life. Colleagues, we have made a significant error in our assessment of galactic threat levels. For the past 3,000 cycles, we have been worried about the wrong things. The room erupted. Everyone was talking at once, demanding explanations, proposing solutions, generally panicking in the most diplomatic way possible. Mava let it go on for exactly 2 minutes before calling for order. The facts are simple, she continued. Earth is a Class 12 Death World extreme. Humans evolved there naturally without any genetic engineering or outside intervention. They number in the billions. They have achieved space travel. They are technologically advanced, socially complex, and they want to join the galactic community. We have 3 options. 1. We quarantine their entire system and pretend we never found them. 2. We attempt to restrict their expansion through diplomatic means. 3. We welcome them and hope for the best. Option 1. The Zorathian delegate said immediately. Option 1 is not actually an option, I said, standing up because apparently I had opinions now. They already know we exist. They have our communication frequencies. They have faster than light capability and development. Quarantine would only delay the inevitable and make them suspicious of our intentions. Option 2 then, someone called out. Diplomatic restrictions. We explained that they need to stay in their system for their own safety. Jack Brennan, who had been invited to observe the session as a courtesy, raised his hand. Mava nodded at him. Yeah, that is not going to work, Jack said pleasantly. Humans do not really respond well to being told we cannot do things. It makes us want to do those things more. It is kind of a whole thing with us. Also, we have already identified 47 potentially habitable planets within 20 light years of Earth. We are going to those planets. That is happening. 47 planets, Pilth whispered. In our space. Well, not your space specifically, Jack said. Unclaimed space according to the galactic charts you shared with us. We made sure to check. We are not trying to start any conflicts here. Commander Voss stood up. Ambassador Brennan, with all due respect, those planets are unclaimed because they are uninhabitable. Most of them are classified as Class 7 or higher death worlds. No species in their right mind would attempt to colonize them. Jack smiled. Commander, with all due respect, you said the same thing about Earth. We will be fine. And that was it. That was the moment the entire galactic power structure shifted. Because he was right. If humans could survive on Earth, then planets we considered completely uninhabitable were probably just mildly inconvenient to them. They were about to expand into territory that no other species could touch. They were going to have access to resources we could not reach, strategic positions we could not hold, worlds we had written off as useless. The vote was unanimous. Option 3. Welcome the humans, establish diplomatic relations and try very hard not to make them angry. The formal reclassification documents were filed the next day. Earth, Class 12 Death World Extreme. Humans, Status Apex. Approach with caution and respect. New protocols were established. Human spaces would maintain their preferred environments. Other species would adapt to them, not the other way around, because asking humans to adapt to us was apparently asking them to suffocate slowly. Trade agreements were proposed. Cultural exchange programs were initiated. Everyone was very polite and very, very careful. I filed my final report 3 weeks after first contact. It was the longest report I had ever written, and the conclusion was simple. We had spent 3,000 cycles cataloging the galaxy, protecting nursery worlds, and carefully managing the development of sentient species. We thought we understood how life worked, how evolution progressed, what was possible and what was not. Then we found humans, and we realized we did not understand anything at all. The galaxy was going to change. Humans were already making plans for their first colony ships. They were excited about it. They kept using phrases like manifest destiny and the final frontier, and adventure of a lifetime. They thought colonizing death worlds was going to be fun. And you know what the worst part is? The truly terrifying part. I got a message last week from Jack Brennan. He wanted to thank me for being so welcoming during first contact. He said humans were looking forward to a long and prosperous friendship with the galactic community. He said they were planning a celebration on Earth, and I was invited. The celebration is called the Olympics. Apparently it is a friendly competition where humans push their bodies to the absolute limit to see who is the strongest, fastest and most resilient. For fun. They do this for fun. I am going, of course. Diplomatic obligation and all that. I have already started increasing my therapy sessions. The humans are coming, and honestly I think the galaxy should be more worried about that than it is. But who knows? Maybe this will all work out fine. Maybe humans will be peaceful neighbors and valued allies. Maybe their death world origin will not matter in the long run. Or maybe, just maybe, we have accidentally welcomed the most terrifying species in galactic history into our midst with open arms and a smile. Either way,